Let's go.
Dr. Rosie Milligan, one of the most sought-after speakers on the circuit today. Her live internet talk show, Express Yourself, is the most provocative, thought-provoking, and talked-about radio show on the internet. There's no holds barred, and Dr. Milligan puts the B in bold. She brings it every Tuesday live at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Rosie has been proclaimed the most provocative female writer of the century. Her books include Satisfying the Black Man and Black Woman Sexually Made Simple, Why Black Men Choose White Women, and the book Nigga Please. These books have raised eyebrows across the country. She has authored 21 books and published 350 titles for authors nationwide. Check Dr. Rosie out at drrosie.com for her books, articles, and archives of her internet talk show. Sit at the feet of wisdom. Dr. Milligan is indeed a timekeeper and scorekeeper. She is the clock, calendar, and almanac for Black America. You need to hear her.
Good morning, top of the morning here in sunny California. You're listening to the Express Yourself Hour. I am your host, Dr. Rosie Milligan, coming to you live. You know how we do it around here, nothing but straight talk up in here. My co-hosts are the wonderful, the invisible man, Mr. Keith Swanson. Everybody keep looking for him. Does he really exist? He's going to show up one day, you guys. In fact, he said he's going to come to the Black Writers on Tour. That's next year. You got a long time to wait for him. Keith, why don't you just post your picture on the internet or something? Because, they all want to know, does Keith really exist? How are you this morning, Keith? Keith, good morning.
Let me unmute. Yeah, I just muted. If they go to Dr. Rosie's website, you can actually see my picture in a nice suit. So, I mean, it could be an avatar, it could be an AI in the background, but you'll have to find out.
Wow, that's a good way to get them to my website. I didn't think of that, to let them know you were there, okay? Mm-hmm. And my other co-host is Ms. Shawana Bordenay. She's an author. She's a real estate guru. She sells houses. She buys houses. She does everything to houses but clean them. And her work that really teach you how to reach your goals. I mean, just absolutely incredible. Not just saying it, but to do it. Good morning, Shawana.
Great morning, Dr. Rosie and Keith.
So how you doing today?
How you guys doing today? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day, right? It's not as hot.
It
but
is.
It's a beautiful day. Yeah.
Well, it makes you really feel blessed, I can tell you that. It makes you really feel blessed when we see what's happening all over the country. Now, we have some guests that's going to be joining us today. We'll be bringing them in. We have Mr. Don Spears. He a best-selling author and a New Orleans resident, also has a home in Mississippi, so he knows about what was going on in both of those places. And we have Miss Brenda Dupree-Williams. She's from New Orleans. And we have a guest, Miss Sheila Robert. She's from New Orleans. Also, we're pending, waiting on someone to join us from New York. And today, I think it's going to be real interesting. We've been hearing a lot in the news about what happened, the devastation of Hurricane Ida. I thought it would be important, Keith and Shawana, to really talk to somebody with boots on the ground, to see what's really going on, because I'm still reeling from what happened during Katrina. We lost a lot of children, got disconnected on buses, and I haven't heard anybody cry and say what happened to those black children. Were they ever connected with their parents? It's like they disappeared. The media didn't talk about it. And I just remember when something happened to this little girl over in Aruba, how everybody was searching, and it's just interesting. I don't know if you guys heard anything about any connection for those children, but I have not heard any cry out about did they all make connection. I did hear one time many of them ended up in some other state with some other family. So I don't know. I mean, we just, it just, a door closed and nobody talked about it if it never happened and those kids were missing. So anyway, so that's why I chose today to get boots on the ground in New Orleans, New York, Mississippi, to tell us the real truth from real people who survived who were also a part of Katrina, but who survived. We're going to focus on Ida, who survived Ida. So I just thought it would be really good for us to look at that. Media have told us a lot, but we want to hear from the people on the ground. So first, let's start with Mr. Don Spears. Mr. Don Spears, how are you today?
I'm good, Dr. Milligan. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, when someone coming out of Katrina, coming out of Ida, can still say I'm good. That gives us all something to really think about. How blessed we are. I know Don had just a small damage, but his feet is on the ground, so he know what happened there. He witnessed everything else. We were there about 2 years ago. Don took us around, I think it was the 9th ward, and I'm telling you, I was blown away to look at all these vacant lots where people could not come back. You know, the land is still there. And you guys, Keith and Shawana, I'm just thinking now, I think the real tragedy of this that people are not really talking about, because these people who got damaged out, many of those people could not afford flood insurance. When you think about what flood insurance, I found out this year, it costs so much. So if you're on a Social Security check or you're a retired employee, I don't know how these people can afford to have insurance plus flood insurance. So we have real tragedy there in those areas. So let me start out talking to Don Spears this morning. Don, can you tell us, with boots on the ground, what really happened and what's going on now? The paper says 66 is dead already, so I'm sure it's higher than that, because there's many people probably still cannot even call in to let people know what's going on.
Well, Rosie, you were talking about boots on the ground. The fact is, I just arrived where I've arrived to do your show. It's pouring down raining. There's a weather condition going on right now. There's a tropical storm that's in Texas, but of course we get the effect too. Not as dire, but we get it too. So it's supposed to rain in Louisiana and Mississippi every day this week, torrential rain and flooding. So when I drove where I am now, I had to drive through flooded streets, traffic signals not working, and this is now, okay. And what you're talking about in terms of people not coming back, one of the major repairs is going to be roofing. Of course, it's pouring down raining, so water's pouring into people's houses as we speak. And as you said, flood insurance is a big problem, and insurance is a big problem. So people have left and gone somewhere else. Like there were evacuations after Ida. With Katrina, there were evacuations, but this was people leaving after Ida because they didn't have water. They haven't had electricity, some people, for 2 weeks. There was one radio interview, and they were interviewing some fishermen from the rural area. These people are living under a blue tarp. No walls, no windows, no electricity, no bathroom, under a blue tarp. Okay?
Now, that's just a covering, Don, like being under something that keeps the rain off of you, no sides.
Yeah. The blue tarps are provided to stop rain from pouring into rooftops.
Okay.
And another point that was made is that it's already been stated by roofing contractors that roofing repairs are going to be delayed and more expensive. And it was hard to get building materials before Ida.
Yeah,
so you can imagine how much they're going to cost now. Schools, some schools in these parishes are closed indefinitely. Plus, of course, they still have to deal with trying to navigate through the coronavirus.
Right.
You go somewhere else and you come home, you don't know what you're being surrounded with, where you are, and then you come home, there's nothing to come home to. They were talking about LaPlace, Louisiana, and Reserve. I have friends, their property was wiped off the face of the earth, not just flooded.
Yeah, those two places
it's not there anymore.
They wiped off the map. There's two little neighborhoods, two little cities.
Right.
Okay.
Gone.
Okay.
Just gone.
Wow. But Don, we're going to come back to you, so just hold tight. We really appreciate you coming on with boots on the ground, letting us know what's happening to us and our people, the real deal, the real story. Because to me, they kind of shares, the part that they want to. And so we just happy that we're going to have somebody from New York. But first, I want to move to Brenda. Brenda Dupree Williams, what's going on in your world? Brenda? Brenda, can you hear me?
Surviving. How about that?
Okay, surviving. So tell us how you see, how did you navigate through this? And let me just give you guys a little, Brenda, let me give them a little background. Reason I wanted you to come on, because you're right there in that hurricane. But you guys, Brenda has been in a basic mental hurricane, I can say, for the last 2 years. Brenda lost one brother a week following one brother, and a year later, her last brother, and to hit an Ida. And she was also a part of Katrina. But I'm saying this because hopefully Brenda will put a book together, because you're talking about somebody who have gone through some hurricanes and some storms, and is still standing and still in her right mind and still having hope. So, Brenda, tell us how you're doing this morning.
Well, Rosie, I'm blessed. And I was listening to Don speak, and, where Don was making his way to was here, where I live. So, thanks to him, and just, I'm grateful to be able to just hold on to property in New Orleans that's been susceptible to flooding and wind conditions, let's say over the past 20 years. I survived Betsy, so I heard you speak about the empty lots after Katrina, and they're still empty and overgrown. So just being able to survive here and hold and maintain to a sense of property when you know a system is not quite right for you, meaning the ability to get loans, the ability to get credit, to get roof repairs. Now it's official roof repairs. Roofs now have to be done by licensed contractors, or your claims won't be recognized by insurance companies. So there's a lot to negotiate here. And it needs a village for all of us to move back and forth within the system. So I appreciate Mr. Spears being here. And you too, Rose.
Wow. That is really interesting. You brought a whole new dynamic that people home where roofs have been destroyed, then they have to have a license, have to get permit from the city. It's not like back in the day that you knew somebody who'd been doing roofing for 40 years and put roofing on Aunt Liz's house and Uncle Bub's and everything is fine. So now you're locked into a higher cost, a longer wait, because you got to get the city to come out and approve at different steps. So really, folks, there's some hidden things that are taking place with people in New Orleans and other places that we have no clue about. That's why I want boots on the ground today.
The labor force, the Latinos who used to do the work here, they're no longer here. So it's really hard just to find someone to help you maintain. So thank you for you and making all of this known and more public.
Thank you. So you guys stay on. We're going to move to Mr. Roberts from New Orleans, and we're going to come to, we have a guest from New York. Ms. Robert?
Hello, how are you guys?
Wonderful, and you?
I am making it, but I was going insane.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're still hanging in there.
Yes, I'm trying, and I laugh and not think about my situation, I think I'll be okay,
Well, were you impacted?
I want to say that, yes. Well, I want to say that I was one of the people that lost everything in Hurricane Katrina. I had lived in my home for 30 years. It was paid for, and it was gone. Okay, so then I relocated to LaPlace.
Oh, no.
LaPlace, my home is devastated in LaPlace. So this is the second time for me, and it's been a nightmare. You know, I know a lot of people have been affected by this. I understand, you know, the problems with the roofs, that they need licensed, you know, contractors to come out. And the reason is because of that, during Katrina, a lot of people were scammed. You had these people coming from out of town, these contractors, and they were scamming the people. Doing the work, doing the shabby work, and taking these people money, and the stuff wasn't done right, and their houses weren't fixed. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, they restrict with the licensing.
Right.
But now, now you can't even get apartments. I'm living from house to house because I can't find anywhere to stay because there's so much devastation. A lot of roofs, a lot of apartments, people, you know, had to move, had to relocate. So people like us can't move into those apartments because those apartments are devastated.
Wow.
You know, you have to go 450 miles to try to find somewhere to stay. And if you work in the city, you know, you have to drive that distance every day, you know, that's unheard. And I have 2 grandkids that's living with me, and, you know, I have to bring them back and forth to school because their school is open. And it's just unbelievable.
So you lost everything both times?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Now, were you buying in La Plaza or were you renting?
Buying. I bought another home. After I lost my home in New Orleans, I moved to La Plaza. I had to start over. I really had to get a mortgage because road home didn't do good by me. My flood insurance, because during that time when I bought my home, you know, I was in an area that didn't flood. So I didn't pay that much for flood insurance, and I didn't carry a lot of flood insurance on my home. So when Katrina happened and the levees broke, you know, I only got a little bit of money. So I had to get in debt to get another mortgage to buy another house to move in La Plaza. And now that's destroyed.
Did you have flood insurance
and, you know, I have insurance.
Okay.
I have flood insurance, but my house is not damaged from flood. My house is damaged from wind. All my ceilings and everything in my home crashed down into my home. I have mold and mildew going up my walls and stuff, all on my furniture, all on my clothes.
So Sheila, are you saying because it was not? Are you saying because it was not damaged from the storm that the insurance is not going to pay?
No, they're going to pay.
Okay.
For the wind and damage. In other words, my damage comes from above. My damage didn't come from the flooding, so my flood insurance won't pay for that, won't pay at all.
Okay. Well, we want to keep up with you and see how that turns out, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thanks for sharing it, and stay on. Don't go into place. We're going to move on over to our guest from New York. Stay on, Sheila. New York.
Okay, thank you.
Our guest from New York.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Give us your name.
Oh, this is Brother Jay from New York.
Okay, how are you doing,
today?
Brother Jay? Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, so boots on the ground. Tell us what's happening in New York.
Well, I mean, basically, some areas were severely flooded. Homes were damaged, but it wasn't any type of damage like it was in, you know, New Orleans, Louisiana, and places like that. I think the biggest thing that most people saw was the subway system flooding. But that's a rarity. That doesn't happen on a norm. So basically, you know, it probably shut down certain areas in the system for like a day, and then they was able to get it back up and running. Not in every station, but in the majority of the stations, which that took 1 or 2 days to do. And basically it's business as usual in New York.
Okay, so New York was able to get. Did people lose a lot in New York? Was homes destroyed in businesses? And then I want to come back and talk to someone in New Orleans about businesses, because we're looking at loss of jobs, and we're also looking at the small men and women who were renting apartments, renting homes, who was already damaged by COVID because people are not paying rent. So we got some real critical issues, and how they're going to recover, we're going to continue to monitor that. So what you're saying is most people in New York, other than the transportation system, want the electricity out there for a while?
Nah, they didn't have those type of problems. Maybe in certain areas it may have been out at the longest period of time for a day. Okay. But with flooding, I mean, the biggest issue I guess in New York City is how the insurance companies deal with those who have damage. Like the previous lady said, there was some issues in regards to flooding and those things. But one thing I would like to say, as you go back to the person from New Orleans, this is just a suggestion that people in that region may need to think about as they rebuild. I think in that area there should be a serious look. When you're gonna rebuild a home, it should be a container home. I think container homes are the way that our people should go in regards to rebuilding, because they have the necessary structures to survive these hurricanes. I know they're doing it in Puerto Rico. And also the cost is much cheaper than a regular rebuilt home. So that's something that, people in that region should think about and look into, container homes. I think it should become the trend.
Yeah, I know that sounds good, but I think people are so used to traditional homes, and the way our home look is also ties into who we are, our self-worth. It ties into a whole lot. And I think once an area start just putting up container homes, I just don't think that's going to work. Let me open up the call. Give me 1 second.
All right.
Those who want to talk to us, and me and my guests and my co-host, call 310-928-7733. 310-928-7733. Or you can email us here at innerlightradio@yahoo.com. Or call, or go ahead, and I'll go back to New Orleans.
Yeah, well, I would just basically say I think you need to take a second look at the design and the architect of container homes, but it's more about the viability of surviving hurricanes and the damage that is being done on a continuous basis to our homes and the loss of wealth and things of that nature. So, to be honest with you, we have to second think this, because too much black wealth is being taken away from us, destroyed, and lost just based on a visualization.
But do you think you think those homes has been tested to survive something like Ida?
Yes, and I tell you why. If you understand, containers are which is used to move commerce all over the world. It's those ships that stuff are brought from China to America. That's what I'm saying. They're able to hold up to any type of weather. That's how they are built. And in Puerto Rico, after their last hurricane, that's what a lot of homes are being used to be built. And the last few bad weather that they've had in Puerto Rico, they've held up extremely well. And the residents that have purchased those homes are elated by that purchase. It's just about educating the people. And once you do that, then you're in a better position, you know, because you're not going to lose your home. So we need to look at it. We need to investigate it, sister.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that idea. I don't know anything about that. But let's go back. New Orleans, either one of you jump in. What are your thoughts right now? Because I thought New York had more damage, but I'm glad that they didn't. I know they had critical transportation system, but based on what you're hearing right now, what's your thoughts? I mean,
yeah,
go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Don.
Don, go ahead. What's your thoughts? And I'm thinking about those who have been involved in Katrina and involved in Ida. Are they thinking, Don, what's your thoughts on what the last caller had to say?
Well, I heard something about container homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some container homes here. But again, you know, we're more acclimated to, as you said, standard houses because we have land here. Well, we used to have land. Okay. But at this point, things are changing. And then I heard a report that said that HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, they also buy and sell houses. But what HUD has been doing is selling houses, not highly priced houses in flood zones. And a lot of the people who are buying these houses because they're cheap are, minorities. And they're not telling those people before they buy the house that is in a flood zone. They wait until after the person has purchased the house to tell them, oh, by the way, it floods. Okay.
When you try to get insurance, you're in the flood zone.
Right. That's right.
Now, that is absolutely ridiculous for a governmental agency to be doing something like that. If a real estate person did not inform the person of a flood zone, they would be in trouble. So really, if they build cheap houses, who they're going to attract is low income families. People who can't rebuild. That's why we got all those lots all over New Orleans, because people can't come back. And the thing now, a lot of insurance companies sending out letters to people telling them they need to increase their insurance because, see, they don't want to lose at all, because the fact is, I know here, like in California, where a person's home could have been $500,000 5 years ago, might be looking at $800,000 or $1 million homes right now, especially if they're in Inglewood. So think about it. You inherit this home, and now they want you to insure it for $1 million. If you're on a fixed income, you can't even afford to increase that insurance. Folks, there's some serious things that's taking place in this country. And I hope that the people who represent us are paying attention and getting ahead of the game as to how they're going to fix this and assist people with these conditions, with the climate change and also the economic change. Go ahead. I think, Don, you were still saying something.
Well, again, and I think the lady who's in New Orleans, was talking about the insurance, and she's absolutely right. But a lot of the people who are coming here, ripping people off, will not let people. Those are people doing the work. Many of them. In some instances, they own some companies. But a lot of them were opportunities who already supposedly had something. I've heard of all kinds of things where people were ripped off, because that's exactly what happened. But again, without the help of Latinos, if you're going to see this time, New Orleans would not have developed and been repaired as quickly as it was. And another thing that's not happening now is before, there were church groups coming. There were throngs and throngs and throngs of church volunteers coming here for years to help. Now those people are not coming. They're probably with the COVID virus. You know, everything is just different now. The economy is different. Everything is different. So who knows how long it's going to take for anything to turn around.
Wow. And you're right. The people who used to volunteer, they're not going to be coming in. And I agree with that. So you're missing a lot. You're missing a lot. Wow. Now, let's look at when we start, Keith, let's go back and look at when we start talking about container homes. Now, you know, people take great pride in my house look better than yours. House is bigger than yours.
Right.
How many black folks you think gonna want to live in a container home?
They've, you know, the container homes that they have now are actually much more decked out, and you would never know that they were container homes. So it's kind of advanced as far as you know, with the tiny home projects, you would never know it's a container home because sometimes they make them look like condos, so it doesn't look like the containers that you pull off the boat or put on a truck. So by the time they finish with them, you wouldn't even know. You know, they put 3 or 4 containers together, they put the stairs in and stuff like that, and then finish it out. You wouldn't even know that it's a container home. So, the technology's advanced quite a bit since then.
When you think our government official would be looking at that then? I mean, I don't know what they're looking at, but it just gave me ideas for property I have in Mississippi. That'll be absolutely perfect because they do have some tornadoes there. So, caller from New York, you just gave me an idea.
Yeah, it's just.
Well,
okay.
Go ahead. I would say, Dr. Rosie, take a good 2 hours and go on YouTube and just look at the designs of container homes, and you would see absolutely what Keith is talking about. Now, further moving forward, in regards to you mentioned the government doesn't do practical things. Government doesn't do things that are for the benefit of the people because they got to keep the parasites in business. The insurance companies. The insurance companies are nothing but parasites. They're not there to help you. You know, I'll say this. If you get insurance, you got to know what you're doing. You got to have a trained professional that knows the insurance industry help you purchase insurance when you in certain areas. But if the government was really about solving the problem in those areas, they would strictly regulate and make it to whereas container homes would be the thing that people who have to repurchase and rebuild their home get, because the one thing that people will tell you, a container home is going to survive basically most hurricanes and inclement weather, like what they're using today. What's being used today to rebuild will not hold up.
Yeah, aren't the container
It can't hold up to a container home. Yeah. You know, the material that's being used today to build homes in New Orleans could hold up to a container home. But you got to ask yourself, you don't think the government knows this? And why are they doing what they're doing to these families? Because if they really cared, they would say, listen, we got to change the dynamics and we're just going to use container homes. But, you know, that's not America's way.
Well, you're really making sense, really, really, because especially when they saw what happened in New Orleans, in a particular area, in the Ninth Ward. If they said nothing but each time we flooded. And Don, was it basically the Ninth Ward? Was it Ninth Ward impacted this time?
With some wind, but not water. So the changes they made in terms of the pumps and the levees and all this kind of stuff, the money that was spent, it appears to have worked to help save anything outside of the standard living district, like preserving the place, they did have problems. But the problem is that stations that they employed let the water just go down to somewhere else instead of coming to New Orleans. They went to reserve in the place.
Okay.
And part of the reason for that is before, in terms of coastal erosion, before there was dirt and trees and grass and everything to stop the water from flowing so quickly.
Okay.
Now, okay.
Wait. Is Don saying that the water was intentionally driven toward the plaza?
Probably so. Yeah.
No. It wasn't intentionally done. No, it wasn't intentionally done. But we found out this time that that's exactly what happened. But it was not intentional.
Okay.
I forgot what that term is. Unintended consequences.
Okay.
Okay.
And
We
again,
have
and again, before there were trees and there were things to stop water from flowing. Natural barriers.
Okay.
All that was because of population.
Okay.
That's now concrete.
Okay.
Got it.
So the water just flows over the concrete. Before you know it, you have a flash flood. Where before you were okay.
So now, instead of soil and trees and grass to absorb the water, you have like almost like a dry riverbed. Just
right to flow.
That's
right. Okay.
Right.
Well, look, now let me take a call. Call from 954. Caller, go ahead.
954.
Okay. We had two callers that hung up. Callers, please call back. We really want to hear from you. We missed your number on the board. Okay. So, folks, this is. Let me ask you all this question: who you think were impacted most with all this tragedy? Was it poor people, or black people?
Well, it depends on which tragedy you're talking about. Because another thing is
economic tragedy.
Yeah, well, in Mississippi, where the home is, not for speech. It's a whole different dynamic. Now, and here, what happened is that the people who had to go through the most problems are black people. And Mississippi, what happened is the governor, who was a Republican, got rid of the income, the unemployment benefit, like 3 months ago. And these are poor people, even that extra $300. They haven't gotten that for like 3 months now. Unfortunately, the Democratic governor of Louisiana also ended those payments early. So the people who needed it the most, the poor black people, had to leave town without having gotten that $300 for 2 months. Think about what that means. Those people who would have had some money in their pockets, possibly, had nothing because the governor decided to do what the Republican governor, the Democratic governor of Louisiana, did the same thing the Republican governor of Mississippi did. Ended the benefits early, the $300.
So, Don, is the greater population in Mississippi, in that area near the Gulf, is the greater majority black people?
In some cities, like Biloxi, I'm sure it's mostly white. Gulfport maybe mixed half and half. I'm not sure. Where I am, Timber Ridge, when past Christian, I think it depends on the community because mine is mostly white where I am. But it depends on where you are. There's a town called DeLille, which is mostly black, which is maybe 20 miles from me. But these are like kind of Creole black people, not typical black, dark skinned black. So it's kind of clannish.
Well, let me ask you.
I just mean, just where they're populated.
Right. Let me ask you guys this question, Brenda, and that's to you, Brenda, too. Tell me, what do you think the mindset is of people who survive this? Do they feel comfortable? It can't happen a third time. This is the second time we've had this tragedy. It can't come back here again. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you feel comfortable that Are there anxieties?
Yes. I don't feel comfortable. To be honest with you, I really don't want to rebuild. I would like to move.
Yeah.
This is Sheila speaking. You know, it's to the point now where my husband and I, we're not talking to one another. We are screaming at one another because of the stress, you know, of going through this again. You know, I don't know. I know a lot of people in my area in LaPlace, a lot of people talking about not rebuilding because they don't want to go through this again because they have had flooding from Hurricane Ike. Between Katrina and Rita, they had Ike. And a lot of people had flooding and stuff during that time. I guess it just wasn't broadcast a lot because it didn't really affect a lot of people as much as it is now. You know, but a lot of people just sat there with him, you know. So we all, you know, we don't have a levy, but we're supposed to get a levy. You know, the past administration stopped everything, blocked everything, but now the new administration, you know, has we're going to get a levy.
They see the need for a levy now, right?
Right.
Can I ask you?
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
I said we talk about the
Excuse me.
levy because they've been built. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. Excuse me, caller. Excuse me, caller. I would just like to say I'm sorry for your tragedy and what's going on, but I just have a quick question for you. Would your husband like to rebuild and you not rebuild?
Oh, right. My husband want to rebuild and I don't want to rebuild.
Okay, ma'am. You know, right. I understand what you're saying, but could I make that suggestion to you that I made to Dr. Rosie? Maybe you and your husband sit down together and look at container home building videos. And I'll say this to you, ma'am. If you look at a couple of them, I really believe that you and your husband will be able to stay right there and work out your problems and rebuild. And you'll feel comfortable knowing that if this happened again, your home will survive. That's my suggestion to you because I know how you feeling and I know how your husband feeling because there's a different spirit for people that's in your area than people like myself in New York. We see things a little bit differently culturally and family-wise. So that would be my suggestion. And I tell you this, you and your husband will get closer and enjoy one another, and I guarantee you, y'all won't be fussing and fighting, and y'all will build that container home and stay there and enjoy yourself.
Okay, thank you. We have another caller.
Go ahead,
we have another.
Go ahead, caller.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello, this is Don.
Oh, go ahead, Don. Speak up, Don. We can barely hear you.
Yeah, back to that thing about container homes. What's that gentleman calling from?
New York City.
We can't hear you. It's kind of low.
People in New York are accustomed to little spaces. Down here, we're accustomed to having homes, not spaces. Okay?
Yep.
So living in a space is not going to make us happy.
Okay. Well, with container homes, they come a long way, and that's what he's saying. So the container homes.
Well, again,
okay.
my home is in Atlanta.
Okay.
6,000 square feet.
Okay.
We're used to houses here with lawns. We enjoy cutting grass and letting plants grow and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Right.
If you can have those same things.
Wait, you guys hold tight.
Bye.
Everybody hold tight. Let me say something. This to New York and to New Orleans, everybody on this phone, we might have come to the realization that the days in the past is days gone. People having big houses that ain't gonna be no more. And if you're in one by yourself, you're gonna find that your kids, your grandkids, somebody gonna need to move in, or you're gonna find yourself renting a room. I remember when a woman with a child wouldn't dare have anything other than 2-bedroom, because I have a 3-year-old child. Okay, now women with children are begging to be able to rent a room in somebody's house with one child and sometime two. I think we're gonna have to come to the realization that it's a new shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a new shift. So we're gonna look at, do we want happiness? Do we want longevity? We're gonna have to look at what do we want.
Yeah, and the thing is, you got to remember, the climate change, believe it or not, is very real. Okay, it's very real, and those storms are just going to get worse because they've been.
Let me tell you what.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me finish my thought first. Right? Okay, because Houston's getting ready to get flooded again. Okay, this is probably what the fifth time in about 10 years Houston's getting ready to get flooded. This is not going to go away. So the thing is, if you want to build these big houses in these flood zones like this, you're really going to have to get on your the state and the feds behinds about putting in levees and putting in drainage to stop this, because it's not going to stop, right? Just like you said, when they put up concrete and took all those trees and the land away, basically you're going to be living in a dry riverbed for the next 20 years, and in 10 years you're going to have the same problem. So the thing is, I know you want hold on a second. I know you want houses. I know you want things to go back to the way that they used to be. But the thing is, the environment and the world does not sit still. It changes. So if you want these big houses on a flood zone, then you're going to have to get on your politicians behind about putting in safety measures and stuff like that. Just like in Los Angeles, okay, we have a 10-year drought, and we've had fires for the last 5 or 6 years burning down people's homes, and they're going to have to make accommodations about stuff like that. We're going to have a water crisis in Southern California because 35% of the United States is desert now. A lot of infrastructure is going to have to change. Go ahead.
I ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
With the water problems you all are having in California and all the other issues you have in California, are you going to move?
Am I going to move? If the water keeps going up and the LA keeps and the water keeps drying up, people are going to have to move. People are already moving from Los Angeles and California.
So where are you going to move to?
Either out of the country. They have this is a big country in the middle of the United States is basically flyover country. It's hollow. You have plenty of land to move to. The thing is, can you move the jobs along with the people? They got plenty of land.
Well, again, it's like in every area has got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Tues, Alabama, in Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They have tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wherever you are, there is some. It's called Mother Nature. It doesn't pick one place and bless the rest. Okay, to do harm to. Wherever you are, they're going to be conditioned. Now, what you were just saying, and I wrote about this in my last book, in my first book, also.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying that after Katrina, why are they going to stay there? Why don't they move? Or why don't people take their own advice? They have issues just like we do. If they can tell us to move, they should move. After they started talking about us moving from down here, they started having the tornadoes in Oklahoma and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Those people didn't move, but they can always suggest that people in the South move. When you move, I'll move. And
okay. Well, Los Angeles doesn't have that. Los Angeles doesn't have that problem. Okay, we don't have those problems. Okay, now when the water dries up, we have other problems. We have other problems, but our problem is basically expense, okay? And that's why people are moving to places like Louisiana and Texas and Missouri and other folks. They've already started moving. Florida, they've already started moving.
I think, Keith, one thing that came out of this, you guys, is that was said, and I think, Keith, you raised the issue. It's important, you all, for us to look at government, to look at our politicians. Now that we see what is taking place, somebody needs to be saying, some safety measures need to be put in. That's all the way around. Because they're looking at it here for the fires. What do we need to put in place?
Yeah, we already
Because
have.
if you don't have money to fix the levee and to do all these things, well, where's the money coming from when you have these disasters? What they say, an ounce of precaution is better than a pound of cure.
Mm-hmm.
That takes place in this world too, So I just hope that people don't just talk about it, that they be about it done. So I hope people don't wait for your politician to bring these issues up. Look around. The people who live in these areas need to look around to see, how safe am I? What would make me more safer? That's what needs to be on the table.
Yeah.
At the city council.
People forget how much money California actually spends. That's how come California is such a high cost state. It's because California actually spends a lot of money on infrastructure doing this kind of stuff. Okay, they don't just sit
billions
there.
Of billions of dollars have been spent in New Orleans. Billions of dollars have been spent also in New Orleans.
Okay, both of you.
Not even close to what they spend in California.
One person at a time.
Yeah, not even close what they spend in California.
I'm trying to make a point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is your point,
my point is that it's being addressed like people down here don't think. The reason it did not flood in New Orleans is because steps have been taken.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point.
Yes.
Well, I want you guys to know we're not condemning people.
It's always people from somewhere else who don't understand, who criticize something they don't understand. That's the problem. People in the South are not ignorant. We are just as intelligent and informed as anyone else, including Los Angeles and New York. And y'all need to start to understand that.
We do understand. We do understand. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I have family in Louisiana. Yes, we do understand, and we do understand that you cannot continue. The reason that the taxes are so high in California is because they do infrastructure. Is because it does it. Because when you move to Texas just got hit because they don't invest
I know
in
you
infrastructure.
guys. No, what he's saying right now, Keith. He's saying that they do the same thing in New Orleans. It's just not holding up the way it is because we don't know what the hurricanes is going to bring. The hurricanes bring wind. There's wind hurricanes and there's rain hurricanes. And if it rains and it rains too much, we're just not used to that type of rain. If we got rain like that out here, we would be totally flooded. Totally flooded. I mean, immediately because we don't even have the system to let it drain. So regardless of how much stuff he does, it's still like that. So he's feeling that we're not understanding. They do that out there, and it's hard because I think the hurricanes are coming.
The thing is, and this is something that they talked about in Texas, about Texas being a low cost tax state, right? And Texas, and that's how come people are moving there. The thing is that when you move when you don't have a high cost tax base, I'm not saying that you should. The thing is, you're going to give up something. And giving up something is part of that is infrastructure. California, the reason that you have such a high cost tax state in California is for infrastructure. When the homes are burned down, when the wires are causing fires and stuff like that, they do start putting in trees, or they do start taking things away. They do start putting in infrastructure. They do start moving people away from high burn rate places.
Keith, I want you to go to the board because we're coming close to running out of time. And I think this conversation been very...
Can I just say one last thing?
No. I need to take what's on the board.
Go ahead.
And then
okay.
Go ahead, Keith.
Houston and New Orleans should be evacuated and declared uninhabitable by the federal government. And I'm a resident of Harris County, Houston, Texas. This is Brother Reggie Muhammad.
Okay. That's someone's opinion, but here's what I want to say. We brought this conversation up because we wanted people to know what was happening on the ground.
Right.
And I think it helps us all to see that we're not prepared for anything. We're not prepared food-wise. Many people don't keep money in their home. I make sure I keep money in my house, So this is a wake-up call for all of us, and so much things happen now that's unprecedented that we couldn't even make plans for if we wanted to. I mean, who would have thought that another disaster would have come right back into the same place? And look, it's going back to Texas. Stuff is happening all over. So
they've been predicting it for the last 25 years, and nobody will listen to them.
Yeah, but we just want people to understand, Keith, to enjoy. Here's what I want to leave you all with. And Brenda reminds me of that so much because as I talk about the tragedy that she has experienced in her life, but she's still always present and she's pleasant and she's always grateful. Listen to this. I found her to be always grateful for the moment. And that's really have inspired me, Brenda. Right. You have really inspired me for the moment. And Don and I talk about that. If we can live in the moment and whatever the consequences are based on our living, we just going to have to be good with that. Because, people have families. They don't want to uproot and leave their families. And this time it could be an earthquake. Next time it could be tornado or it could be lightning strike. And folks, I'm getting ready for all the turmoil that's going to happen across this country. Because look at Haiti. They didn't expect the same thing to come back to them. So I think what I wanted to gather from the show, from the ground, for people to look at, Sheila talking about she'll lost twice, but she's going to go on. So the point is we need to look at how do we rebuild, not our house, be very clear, not how we rebuild this structure. How do we rebuild our lives when these things happen? That's what our next show is going to be about. How do we rebuild our lives when tragedy comes?
Friendship and love. When you first opened the real estate agent, you made mention she did everything with houses except clean them. But at this point in time, coming home, one of the main things we had to do was clean our old refrigerators. And I helped my godmother with her refrigerator because it's a daunting task to throw away what you've been holding reserve. So to lose everything, so to be able to help in whatever way possible. Friendship and love. That's how we start. That's how I start from where we are.
Yes.
I can see that, right? Yeah, with Brenda and Don. Friendship is what kept them going there in New Orleans. So we're going to do a show and look at how do we go on despite all these things, because they're going to keep happening, folks. This ain't nothing new. This stuff is going to continue to happen. Isn't it ironic we battling COVID? At the same time, we battling disasters. Folks, and Sheila, you said it best. We better try to have some friends. And we better have to get comfortable with, I may not live the way I've been living all this time. I may not have what I've had past, but am I going to be okay? You got your help.
That's
you
the
can
most
rebuild.
important thing. That's
you got your help. You can rebuild. And if you don't rebuild, you'll find some place to live.
Right.
So, for our caller, for Don, Brenda, did you have a closing statement? Because I really want you to write your book. Don has 3, and he'll be back on the show with his book. But Brenda, you really have a book inside of you. You are actually extraordinary. You want to have a closing word?
Rosie, thank you. And all I say is I have a certain faith that I go by. If you know Don Spears and his writings, then, he's a dear friend of mine, but we look at certain things differently. So I just want to say I thank God. I thank him for what blessings I have and what things I see as blessings. And I consider my friends, those that I love, Dr. Milligan's friends. So I'm going from there, and thank you, Rosie.
Okay. Don, you want to have a closing comment?
Well, I'm just glad I didn't hear, me, Rosie and Presley. I'm glad I didn't hear anybody saying anything about our thoughts and prayers go with you. Okay? Because we need action. Faith is wonderful.
Yeah.
It is. But we need action also. People need to understand that. Get off your behind and do something. And again, what you said is absolutely true about people. You and I have been looking out for each other for years. And I've helped you. You've helped me through some hard times. and you've helped so many people through hard times all over the United States. So many people don't even know that. Okay, but again, I thank you for everything you've done for me too, Rosie.
Well, Don, we appreciate you and glad that you are still weathering the storm, and that's all getting involved. In New York, you have a closing statement?
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you, Dr. Milligan and Brother Keith. To Don, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I think you need to look outside of the box because the United States government doesn't care anything about the people in your region. They have the solutions to solve the problem, but they never will because it's about money. It's not about human capital, human lives, or anything like that. And to the sister, I'd like to say best of luck to not only you and your husband, and just please take the time for both of y'all to sit down and look at those container homes, and I guarantee you'll stay there and enjoy it. And lastly, Don, in building a container home, you can have your garden, you could have your lawn, you can have all of those things. Just take a minute and look at the landscaping involved with these type of projects, and you'll see, honestly, if built right, it could be just as beautiful as what you had before.
Well, I tell
Have a
you
good
what,
day.
I am definitely going to go on YouTube and really take a look, at the container homes. But most of all, be safe. Find someone that you love. Find someone that love you. Make some friends. That's the best thing that we can do, because any tragedy, at least Sheila had somebody's house that she could go to. So she made some connection along the way. And that's the thing we need to pass on to our children. Try to have an association with people that can do something for you in time of need. You guys be safe. I thank you so much for coming on. The show has been very helpful. We've learned a lot, and it's going to re-air. Let's see what the engineer is going to tell me. That way, if you have other friends you want to listen to this show, I think that would be great, because we having tragedy all over the land. So I don't know where you run to. Can't run, you can't hide, but you can make sure you have friends. This show is going to re-air at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's innerlightradio.com. That's innerlightradio.com at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank all of you. Thank you, my guests, and you all have a safe day. And just be prepared. Whatever comes, take it in stride. That's what I do. Have a great day.